Welcome to Convergence, Episode 6 on People for People Radio. Find out how the personal is political as we explore the politics here on Earth, the exopolitics of our galaxy, and how these intersect with spiritual transformation through my unique perspective. Today, we will continue to explore the realm of exopolitics. I will give you a tour and details about the big ship, physical versus non-physical presence, and what to expect during the orientation process. This is part 3 of a 3-part series. If you missed parts 1 or 2, check out the archives here on People for People Radio or my YouTube playlist to find all of the episodes of Convergence. And thank you everybody for joining me today. So where I left off last time and where I'd like to continue today is with the big ship. I only remember seeing the big ship from the outside once. It appeared black, glossy, and reflective, with arms protruding from the sides which bent off to the side like the arms of a galaxy. There were docking bays on and within the arms, where the smaller craft were docked and stored. The main body of the ship was shaped like a plump button. It was basically spherical with a flattened top and a flattened bottom. From time to time, other big ships, which looked similar, came and joined the big ship on the top or the bottom, causing a stacking effect. Times of this joining facilitate trade, community celebrations, and joint projects. It's a very exciting time. I was told that the docking arms of many ships can stretch out and connect tip to tip to form mesh-like worlds that surround small stars. They remain in these universal communities for thousands of years, but from time to time, individual ships will break off to pursue other interests. The remaining ships adjust their location slightly to make up for the spot left by the departing ship, so that the hole in the net disappears. Individually, the big ships are very, very large, miles and miles in diameter. Excuse me. Some big ships are enormous, like a mega city, as seen here on Earth, but some are as big as the Earth or even larger. I was told there is great diversity amongst the big ships. Although many are as I have described, some are very spectacular and can be organic, etheric, and or light ships depending on the nature of the beings that live there. The interior layout of the big ship is like an easy-to-navigate labyrinth with many flat floors. There are no sharp corners, as every room and space is cylindrical. Except for our sleeping chambers and the bath areas, everything is well lit, but I couldn't tell where exactly the light was coming from. It appears to just emanate from the walls and ceilings as though by bioluminescence. On board, beings rarely work out or work at physical fitness, unless this is culturally desirable, as we have healing chambers to improve and maintain health. Many of us walk to where we wish to go, but for long distances, we were transported within the big ship by vertical anti-gravity lifts or horizontal moving floors, something like a conveyor belt, but there didn't appear to be any visible moving parts. When I was on board, I realized that the whole ship was alive and intuitive, and I learned it utilizes biological nanocomponents, which form according to our needs and our intentions. Everything is linked into biological intelligence because the big ship is alive and conscious. It operates like artificial intelligence, but it is biological and not artificial. I don't know the details of how it works, but it is about the coolest thing I have ever seen. I had one very memorable experience. As we were preparing to leave the big ship, we used a vertical transport system to head down to the docking bay on one of the ship's arms. The vertical transport system is very long, like a mile long, as it services many floors. I stepped off the platform and I placed my hands on the handle grips, which determined the speed of descent. I wanted to see how fast I could go at maximum speed of descent, and I went whipping down, squealing with laughter. The woman who was waiting to come down after me jumped on head first and came flying down after me in mock pursuit. We had great fun and laughter racing down to the docking bay. At the bottom, there's just this little poof of air, but no noticeable impact. And we simply step off and onto the docking bay platform. So moving on from the big ship, I want to talk about physical presence versus non-physical presence. As far as I can tell, I'm able to visit the big ship in a few different ways. By location, consciousness transfer with or without the use of clones, and occasionally consciousness swap with another being. Available clones include one-size-fits-all, genetic copy, and a specialized or utilitarian version. I have a healthy body, which is an exact but improved genetic copy of me on hold back on my home away from home, the big ship. When we're taken by these ETs, we rarely take our physical bodies with us for two reasons. Excuse me. One reason is because it takes a lot of energy to split and transport our complete selves, mind, body, and soul to their far distant location. Another reason is because we are so toxic from our environment here on Earth. Without our permission, our bodies have been used as filters for all kinds of industrial waste like fluoride, chlorine, radiation, heavy metals, etc. And this is why physical and mental detoxification is so important if we are serious about making contact and gaining access to intergalactic experiences. Since our physical bodies are so toxic, we usually travel via consciousness transfer or do a swap of consciousness with another being who is physically already there at our desired location. This allows us to work off-world while we sleep. There's another method of instant transport to any star system with and without physicality. I'm not sure how it works, but the off-worlders send a small orb or a sphere. It appears physically in front of the transportee, and then when you open yourself up vibrationally to it, you dematerialize and are instantly transported to the desired location. As far as I remember, I have never been transported this way, but I'm actually open to the experience. We can also initiate the consciousness transfer experience through etheric travel, lucid dreaming, lucid consciousness, and remote viewing. And ET knows when we are there. Last February 2020, Bob facilitated a very detailed lucid dream or remote viewing session for me so that I could go back and visit my friends on the big ship. As I ethereally floated down the hallways, the beings looked up and directly at me and sent me telepathic messages of greetings and love. I was so delighted. Later, during the same visit, several beings and I shared information about various kinds of nefarious implants, the ways that they manifest for humans, and what would be the best way to remedy them. According to my ET friends, physical, etheric, and holographic implants have been holding back the evolution of our race. For more information about implants, watch episode 6 of Forbidden Transformation on my YouTube channel. Sorry to disappoint the nuts and bolts researchers, but I saw no evidence of direct physical pickup of humans from Earth with a spaceship. Never saw that. So let's move on to everyday life aboard the big ship. Well, first of all, everyone is in perfect health. There are healing chambers to prepare the body for life on the big ship, and before we go on expeditions to selected planets. Each planet is unique, and it presents different stresses and demands to our bodies. So we must prepare for variables in atmosphere, gravity, nutrition, etc. Since many of us also have subtle differences in our physiology, the healing chambers keep our bodies or our clone bodies in perfect health while we are aboard the big ship. I remember the first time I used a healing chamber. I was led to a large room with about 100 of these devices lining the room in circle within circle formation. Each one was cylindrical in shape, and they opened up like a clamshell. Most were about 8 feet long and had lots of room inside. Some were a lot bigger and a lot longer, and I wondered if they were designed for giants. I climbed in, and I was surprised at how comfortable the moss-like padding was. I laughed a bit as I compared it to a big coffin in my mind's eye. Once the top section closed, the internal lights dimmed, I suddenly felt a bit sleepy and extremely relaxed. I was aware of some gentle tones which reminded me of classical music. The air was very moist and fresh, and it reminded me of the smell of a forest. I must have fallen asleep because the next thing I knew, the top lifted and there was my friend smiling down at me, offering me a hand out. And I can tell you folks, I felt absolutely fantastic. I looked to my friend for an explanation and soon realized that I was treated with various frequencies of smell, sound, light, and other vibrations. My friend was one of the many beings who were born on the big ship, and most live their whole lives there, never resettling on any planets. One of the training options they offer us is to resettle on board the big ship. Now, not every big ship has the same culture, but the intention is pretty much the same: tolerance and compassion, love and cooperation. They use a resource or trade-based economy. There is no money and everything is provided for free. Instead of attending an assigned job, time is spent pursuing our passions and beings choose the career they wish to pursue. There is much trade within the ship and with other ships. Everything we want or need can be 3D printed, similar to a replicator, but it is only used for creating inanimate objects. Still, culture requires its symbols, and trade definitely brings enjoyment to many. And in this way, we're actually very similar. So as I mentioned before, the ship is biological. It is made up of many different sections or cubicles, which easily convert depending on your intention. And yes, the ship is also psychic. Each section has everything for every purpose and just folds out according to your intention. Everything is automated. Even the doors respond to your intention. The restrooms are really cool. They're small and they have a platform that comes out of the wall. You never have to touch anything. And since we all share a similar body design, the plumbing mechanisms are very simple. Basically, after dropping your drawers, you squat slightly, and a pleated type of wide tube will extend up from the platform. And it offers as much support as you want or need. And when you're done, you don't have to do anything. The toilet tube sprays a fine mist, which is immediately and gently sucked back down the tube. So this mist instantly dissolves any debris, moisture, etc. that might exist back down the tube. So you just pull up your pants and go. Afterwards, the pleated tube sinks back into the platform, which then recedes back into the wall. By the way, these beings are healthier than us, and they don't need to go to the bathroom very often. They're not like us. There are no hand sanitizers or anything like that. The housekeeping system is very simple. Every room emits a fine enzymatic mist-like substance that sanitizes, removes odors, etc., and is constantly sucked or vacuumed away by a silent, gentle air conditioning and filtration system. The mist is completely inert and it does not hurt the body or the health in any way. Everything, including our clothes, are constantly sanitized. All waste material from food scraps, restroom, or clothing, everything goes back into a recycling system where it's broken down into smaller elements by biological critters that I will call bugs. They are alive and they thrive in that environment. The resultant fluids are fed back into the 3D printing system, which operates, as I mentioned before, a little like a replicator. Food, however, is never replicated. It's not like a Star Trek experience, not really. There are some small similarities, but the reality is more advanced and certainly more eco-friendly. For an example of trade, as mentioned, the waste management system is biologic, and we did trade with another ship who had lost their organic waste management bug community. So we gave them some of ours to replenish their stock. Everything has a purpose, and almost everything is living. Moving on to our social life, the ET beings are very social. We get together to eat at low tables, seated on the floor or while we are reclining. Each table raises from the floor and it has both heat and chilling technology for food preparation. Food is completely fresh because it grows everywhere and in every department. We form a relationship with the living nourishment, and many people love to prepare cuisine in various ways to make it beautiful, entertaining, and delicious. And then there's the baths. The baths are also greatly enjoyed. The baths serve as a relaxed community interaction and also serve as nutrient and healing for our bodies. So I'm not sure what the fluid is. I don't know. I mean, I might know, but I don't remember. It's not water, but it's very similar to water and has a very soothing effect on all of our bodies. So when we go in the bath, we're all naked. They are not obsessed with body type. We like water, and so do other races of humanoids. While bathing in the subdued light, we fall into a collective psychic meditation which completely relaxes everyone physically and mentally. Most of us enjoy grooming, and sometimes we like to groom and touch those we feel closest to gently while bathing. Everyone is very psychologically open, relaxed, and social with little communication. Bath time is a familial, loving activity. And after our morning bath, some of us gather to assist with hair design, body adornment, or even personal grooming. I saw both cluster and private living quarters, which come equipped with showers and anything else you might desire for your comfort. Some people live alone, others with their families, both genetic and fictitious families. So, what do we do on a day-to-day basis? Well, I would say the primary focus is education and training, which everybody really enjoys. If you are an ambassador, you attend exopolitical type meetings with other visiting delegates. And this is when I give rationales for human behaviors or politics, and I serve as a consultant. If you are a visitor, you will be busy adding your culture and your wisdoms to the data banks. If you are a resident or you wish to pursue residency on the big ship, there is scientific research and ship maintenance. And it's funny because ship maintenance overlaps with ship evolution because the ships are indeed alive. And there are many different kinds of jobs available, from utilitarian to highly technical. If you are involved in the Intergalactic Resettlement Program, you will experience scientific expeditions to other worlds, where we measure potential ecological footprint, etc. And we love and spend time with each other. Most of the resident beings were born on the big ships, and they live their whole lives on board, which would be like living in a mega city. Guests like myself use the big ships and the company of these beings to participate in exopolitical ambassador work, intergalactic resettlement, training, etc. ET residents do research, serve as hosts and educators, tutors, scientists, engineers, and social support workers. Virtual reality offers mental experiences for education, entertainment, and recreation, which can have a positive effect on the physical body. So for example, if I use the virtual reality tool and I have the experience of going mountain climbing, that actually somehow actually benefits my health and my body. I guess the brain can't really tell the difference. But before we return to Earth, our memories about our ET experiences are suppressed. This process is not some kind of psychic rape. There are special beings who can facilitate the memory suppression within us, and we choose to forget for a reason. Detailed memories can interfere with our reintegration to everyday life here on Earth. Memory suppression is for our own protection. Spontaneous memories will emerge when the time is right, although some humans have had spontaneous release of memory from a triggering event. So now I'd like to talk a bit more about powering up the big ship. There are various ways to power these ships. Components for energy can be taken from various space objects, but the process that I witnessed really surprised me. Basically, the ship was powered by the occupants. The big ships are energy efficient, but every once in a while, they need an energy boost. This process is well discussed in part 2, which can be found in the archives and on my YouTube channel. I witnessed a similar process when we moved the ship from one point of the time-space continuum to another. It was unlike any kind of travel that I have ever seen or imagined. Similar to the refueling process, the occupants find a comfortable place to rest. I was taken up to the observation deck so I could see our new location as we arrived. On the day that we relocate, we eat very sparingly, taking a very small snack in the morning. We stay in a sober, contemplative state throughout the day, as this is considered to be a spiritual event. I reclined with my friends and I prepared for the ceremony. The ship emits audible tones of frequency, which put us into a very deep meditative state. I fell into a deep sleep, and a couple of hours later, my friend woke me to see our new location. Now, these ships do not travel the way we think of travel. There is no travel from one place to another. The ship is given the new coordinates and somehow uses our meditative state to fold space, and we just appear at the new location. This process did not make us feel exhausted, like when we offered up some of our life force as fuel. Instead, we felt well rested and ready to celebrate. Since I was on the observation deck, I could see the expanse above and a couple of the planets of this new solar system off in the distance. It was so beautiful. Then we all raced down to the community dining area and prepared a feast for each other. Everyone was so happy and lighthearted. This process of pulling energy from the occupants, methods of travel, etc., have evolved into very meaningful cultural celebrations, as mentioned in part 2. So now I'd like to talk a bit about the orientation process, because I think it's good for you to know this in case one day you find yourself on board one of the big ships. So my very first memory, I was in a large room without much furniture, a few round tables, and chairs that appeared to come up from the floor. I sensed that this was a reception area. There were other people who looked like me, but there were some subtle differences, so I suspected these people might be off-world beings not from Earth. Most congregated in small groups, and some shared common language that was unfamiliar to me. I seemed to be the only one who understood English. We all had the same vibe of light-hearted cooperation, and we knew we were there for a purpose. There were 2 large men who stood at the 2 doorways at opposite ends of the room, and at first I thought they were guards of some sort. They stood very still, and they did not talk to us or interact with us in any way. They just stood there. I noticed that there were no handles on the doors, so I could not explore further than the room. I knew I was there for a reason, and I verbally asked one of them when we would, quote, get started, but he didn't say anything to me. Telepathically, he indicated that I needed to wait and that it would be soon. And I said, okay, out loud. I walked around the room and noticed a few strange things. The walls were very soft, and when I reached out and touched them, I gently slid my finger down a section of the wall, and I saw and felt little ripples as though it were responding to my touch. The room was very well lit, but there was no lights or lamps or noticeable light source. The floor was made of the same soft-feeling material, which seemed to be made of leather-like material. And I felt neither warm nor cold. The temperature was just really perfect and comfortable. I tried to say hello to some of the people, but it was obvious we used different languages and communication styles, so we could not hold a conversation. I was feeling a little restless, so I just went ahead and set things up to teach the group how to play floor hockey with a piece of crumpled up debris that we used as a puck. The group caught on quickly to my nonverbal instructions, and we had a great time laughing and kicking this piece of refuse around between the two so-called goals. Our game was interrupted as the doors opened and some of the ship residents came into the room. And there were no scary-looking people, just humanoids that looked very close to humans. These were and are people. When the doors opened, it was time to start our orientation to the big ship, culture, and the resettlement project. Not that I fully understood that at the time. Later, one of the ETs took me aside and told me telepathically that they really didn't expect us to come together socially to play a game so soon. They were surprised by this, and they told me that they really valued my team building skills. They highly value this trait. I was surprised that I understood him easily and effortlessly. We were obviously there physically, possibly, as I mentioned before, via bilocation, because the first thing we did was participate in a walk-through full body scan. Now, this was a complete image, or it took a complete image of everything inside us, what we look like on the outside, our energetic frequency, our health, etc., and it was recorded into their database. With this tool, they are also able to collect data on our past lives, unresolved traumas, and our core personality types, including our talents, strengths, and weaknesses. The initial full body scan also collects the data needed for successful clone implantation later when we come aboard ethereally or through consciousness transfer. Next, everyone was assigned to an ET buddy, who became our constant companion. This being keeps no secrets and no deception, so I felt very relaxed and comfortable with her. Our buddies stay with us 24/7 until we adapt and feel completely comfortable in our new environment. The residents do their best to match us with beings who look closest to our appearances. So my buddy was about 6'4" tall, with very long legs that came up to the top of my hips. So I'm 5'6" tall, or 5'7", depending. And so she would have been almost a foot taller than me. Her torso was about the same length as mine, but her neck was longer and her head was larger than mine. Her skin was very pale with a slight teal tone, and her hair was short, orange in color, and it had many short tufts that swirled about her scalp, which reminded me of an Abyssinian guinea pig. She was beautiful. She had a narrow nose, brown eyes with gold highlights, and a narrow jawline. Once I got to know her a bit, she showed me her tongue, which was longer and thinner than that of humans. She indicated that this physical trait was from her ancestors who once lived on a planet where they fed from the liquid nectar which formed inside large colorful blossoms. Her name could be loosely translated into Peaceful Blossom Narrow Tongue. She wore a lightweight orange poncho-looking dress that fell to her mid-calf. She wore several metallic bracelets up both arms, and sacred symbols were tattooed onto the tops of her feet. She was really beautiful, gentle, and patient. One of the buddy's tasks is to inform new visitors about what to expect, what they will be experiencing, how to go about things, and answer any questions that we might have. I had a lot of questions. When we are ready, we are given alone time and privacy when we want it. On that first day, she motioned for me to follow her, and as we walked down several corridors, I noticed that I could actually, quote, feel what she was thinking. Very softly at first, but soon I realized this was going to be how she would communicate with me. Her vibe was soft, soothing, and very reassuring. Soon she stopped, turned to the wall, and a door opened up to grant us access. The room was oval in shape, and there was nothing in there, or so I thought. She looked at me, and I saw in my mind's eye the image of someone sleeping on a pad. I imagined how I like to sleep, and she turned away from me, and then out of the bottom of the wall slid a mattress-like object on a platform about the same shape and size of the image as I had beheld it in my mind's eye. She motioned for me to lay down and see how it felt. It was super comfortable, and she could tell from the way my body began to relax that it was just right. Next, she pointed to another blank wall, and something like an oval box came forth out of the wall. It had a few drawers that were empty. Later, I was to use this furniture to receive and store my 3D printables. So by this time, I had to pee. More evidence that I was there physically. My buddy knew right away, and with a big smile, revealed a doorway that led to the washroom. Now, details about the washrooms were shared previously in this Part 3 presentation, so I won't cover it again here. But she then demonstrated how to operate the shower, the lighting, the water dispenser, and the shelving unit. Then we left my room, but before going anywhere, she indicated that I should mark the door so that I would remember where it was located on that floor. Now, to locate my room, I could normally use my tablet, but I didn't know how to use it at this point. I imagined a bunch of roses, and the image appeared out of nothing on my door. So besides our buddies, we were given orientation information, which we accessed with tablets. These are very similar to what we use here on Earth, except these look like thin, clear resin rectangles without any buttons or ports. They project flat on the screen or as a holographic image above the screen. All data is stored on a cloud-like system, which is actually the consciousness of the big ship. We have access to all knowledge from this cloud as well. We also use these tablets later on to navigate the interior of the big ship and for education on upcoming work opportunities, entertainment, and while down on the planets. We were educated through virtual reality and also the use of these tablets. As I mentioned before, we communicate via telepathy, so emotions, feelings, mental images, and gestures. Sometimes we use communication implants until we've mastered the skills of telepathic communication and psychic shielding. I chose not to use the implant because I wanted to practice my new skill without, quote, training wheels. I figured I would learn faster without it. So orientation includes the use of the healing chambers, which heal our physical bodies, etheric, energetic bodies, etc., allow us to detoxify and become physically comfortable in the ship's environment. Healing chambers can also be used to prepare us for the unique qualities needed for the upcoming planet that we may be working on. We become adapted this way to the new gravity, available foods, oxygen content of the atmosphere, etc. As mentioned earlier, they look like tanning beds, but they're bigger, and the process is in no way invasive, and it's very, very comfortable. Orientation ships do just that. They give us a first contact point, options for training, transport closer to destinations, exopolitical ambassador meetings, etc. We spend time in classrooms learning, as well as group and alone time with our tablets. And as mentioned before, if we tell people what we have experienced, we are stigmatized, and it can cause social, political issues for the contactees once we return to Earth. So our memories are suppressed before we return to Earth. Excuse me. So I'd like to talk a little bit more about life on the big ship. I would say the biggest challenge, definitely the biggest challenge for me, was to learn to stop talking. Generally, everybody knows what everybody else is surface thinking. Words are limited sets of symbols that hold us back. Languages on Earth are specific sets of symbols that lock us into specific ways of thinking and perceiving. Words are part of the construct, and they contain us within the artificial Earth matrix. Words literally get in the way, and they take away from the peacefulness of the environment. Some beings are offended by the way that we speak with mouth movements, the showing of our teeth, saliva, etc. Some of them are very tidy around the mouth, and we come across as scary or threatening when we speak with words. Also, when we use words, we tend to emote very intensely, as we are perceived by them. It is offensive to most off-world beings in the same way as being screamed at is offensive to us here on Earth. These beings, as I mentioned before, are not into physical fitness. They just maintain healthy lifestyles, but they never try to bulk up. Working out for physical fitness is a real foreign concept to most of them. The spirit of cooperation and sharing permeates the environment. And as I mentioned previously, trade goes on very much on all levels. There is an abundance of everything. There is no shortage, so people can be generous, and they're very non-competitive. The work is efficient, and there is overlap between training, work, entertainment, and recreation. We study and work according to our area of interest. Could be arts, sciences, it really doesn't matter. All training and work overlaps with recreation and entertainment. Everyone loves what they do, and I gotta say, guys, it's a fun place to work. So an example would be if you had an interest in plants, that would probably lead to a botany specialization, which leads to intergalactic research, which leads to resettlement. You will begin training through tablets, then virtual reality, then classrooms, and then real-life training with a tutor. And in the beginning of orientation, we are assessed as to our learning style, our areas of interest, our talents, and of course our intentions. So virtual reality is a bit different than the way we perceive it here on Earth. It's like watching a video, but it's inside your head. So there's no bulky equipment, just a narrow band that fits loosely around your forehead and the sides of your head. And while you're using it, you recline in a very comfortable padded chair. At first, I used it to train myself to send and receive communication telepathically, but later I used it for other training. Virtual reality offers the experience of nonverbal lectures, discussions, and experiences, which are received by the brain as live experience. Every day I spent private time doing research with tablets or virtual reality. Now I want to tell you about another kind of handy little gadget I saw while I was there. And I call it, for lack of a better name, the toy maker. Like humans, these beings have a high need for play, and they're full of curiosity. What I call the toy maker is a box-shaped device with touch symbols on the sides and internal 3D printer, which just prints to instruction. Then when you're done with what you have created, you put it back on the top of the device and the elements are recycled. I saw it produce games, puzzles, blocks, documents, and something that looked like an abacus. I have no recollection of what it was used for. And while I'm on the subject of play, I used my tablet to design my own pajamas, which I wore as clothing. The 3D scan done at orientation is also used to produce a holographic image of self, which I used on my tablet for testing my designs. All beings that I saw wore clothes when not in the bath. A few beings wear what look like jumpsuits, but most are free to wear whatever they want. I designed comfortable, loose-fitting pajama-style clothes during my off time. And there's no judgment about how we express physically. I used a drag and drop system to create the clothes I wanted to wear, and at the end of the day, I put my clothes into the recycling chute, and my new clothes were then 3D printed and delivered to my room while I slept. There's a little tray or a drawer in my private room, which offers whatever I want, just waiting for me there in the morning. It's very simple. You can have anything you want and then just recycle it when you're done. Abundance is a given. There are not a lot of rules and policies. Everything is put to very good purpose. And then I just want to mention one other thing, and that is the gardens. The gardens are in every department. They're beautiful and they're integrated within the big ship. Live food is treated with light, sound, and other frequencies to enhance nutritional values. Different beings have slightly different nutritional requirements. So what does ET think about us? I get asked that question quite often. And I have to admit that most beings on ship are not necessarily aware of or concerned with Earth. People who live on board do not think about or talk about humans and Earth affairs. We are just not that interesting. And besides, our current situation would be disturbing to them and even abhorrent because it is so far out of balance. We must stop thinking of ET in human-centric and anthropocentric terms. When I say they are our next step in evolution, they are also our next step as higher dimensional beings. They are one essence diversified into the appearance of individuals like us, but even more so. They are more strongly rooted in the love harmonic, and this sets the intention of life. For example, when they work and are in training, they do not follow a work schedule. They live in the flow. They just think about what they would like to do. Now, this could be inspired by just their own thoughts or another being or the ship itself or any combination of influences, but everything just flows. When they're tired, they rest. When they want to learn, they learn. They just are aware of their feelings and follow the flow. This is partly due to being telepathic, but also due to being at one with the chaos of the flow of reality. We on Earth have yet to realize that the chaos is basically God. It is a force that we are not meant to replace. The order that the construct creates through propaganda is evil. Our ancestors were brutally forced to agree to subjugate themselves into slavery, and the socio-religious, political, cultural, economic, propaganda, war construct was created. And this is the framework that we were taught to worship and obey. Now, ET does not have use for constructs. They have been free since they became evolutionarily more advanced. The flow that we desire to tap into is the chaos. We learn to live within the chaos, where we discover ways to thrive within it. There is no need for control. So getting back to the question of what does ET think about us, well, I'm going to use a popular movie as a metaphor. I don't know if you've seen this movie. Some of you might have. It was called The Village, and it was produced in 2004 by M. Night Shyamalan. And I got to use it because it's an excellent metaphor for understanding our place among the intergalactic family. So in this story from the movie The Village, there is a constructed village with stories about a dangerous monster meant to keep people from straying outside of their village. Every once in a while, someone would put on a scary costume and frighten the hell out of the residents. The purpose was to maintain the purity of the culture and get residents to obey restrictions and boundaries and curfews. Now, near the end of the show, we find out that the village is embedded into a mainstream area with nearby towns and communities who know nothing of the residents within the constructed village. They go about their daily affairs oblivious to this preserved culture within the village. And the villagers within the construct know nothing of the others outside. One day, one of the villagers strays outside of the boundaries and finds the mainstream people, who don't look scary or fearsome at all. There were no monsters. So this is very much like my experiences with ET. ETs look very much like us, are healthier, stronger, wiser, more technologically advanced, and more spiritual than us, but that's about it. ET is going about his or her business with no thought of us. Most times they don't even know that we are here. And I'm like the person who strayed from my village and found that there are all kinds of other beings out there. And I also want to say that I think it's terrible, in my opinion, that humans are trying to scare the hell out of us with stories about off-world monsters to keep us trapped and compliant within the company line. Those who create and maintain this construct are religions, governments, economies, and of course the elites. I believe that a false invasion is planned, but according to my experience, the last thing these highly evolved people would think of is to come down and mess with our livestock, or conduct cruel experiments on us. Humans have, though, been spirited away to train and work towards common goals, and that would be people like myself. So now I got a few minutes left. I'd like to talk about making contact and how to prepare for contact. So contact has begun and disclosure has already happened. Earth is under quarantine until we humans evolve to the level of maturity to ensure that we will make positive contributions to the ecology of the universe. We need to take our power back and evolve, making room for resettlement options. I was given the download from my ET friends of the Quantum Health Transformation Program, and I used it myself for recovery, and I basically live by it even today. Now it's updated and available for free for everyone who has access to the internet. Quantum Health Transformation will assist you to become healthier, smarter, more spiritually evolved, and technologically in alignment with our intergalactic brothers and sisters, should we decide to make contact with them. And another really important part of this is our intention. We must accept that we are not at the top of the heap evolution-wise when it comes to humanoids. We have trouble imagining beings superior to us, and it's a shock to find out that many off-world beings have never even considered our existence. We must try to step outside of the construct and stop thinking in human-centric terms. These are free people and have been free for thousands of years, maybe even more. Their thinking, culture, health, and evolution is free from artificial constructs. Our norms of war, poverty, crime, and illness would be very disturbing to them and foreign. This is why they are not going to swoop in here and rescue us. We have to overcome the infection of our dysfunctional beliefs and thinking. We must evolve to the point where we can connect with them through universal consciousness. They are not religious, but they're very spiritual beings. They will come as a response to an extinction level event, but will only take those who qualify, have useful skills, and have elevated themselves to a higher understanding of reality. This is part of the resettlement program. Humans who have done the personal work so that they can hold sufficient frequency are the ones who will be taken. And as an act of mercy, they will also take their loved ones, which the qualified individual holds dear. They would never take those of us who would spread the infection of our dysfunctional ways of thinking and being onto other worlds, or even onto the big ships. This would cause harm to the ecology of the omniverse. Now, I just want to speak a bit to the CE5 movement. That's the close encounter of the fifth kind, which is human-initiated contact. How to listen for intergalactic communication. Learn to listen to the outermost reaches of the mind. It's like peripheral vision, but it's peripheral awareness. So we actually have to learn to listen mentally. I also want to recommend Dr. Stephen Greer's CE5 movement. To make contact, learn from Dr. Stephen Greer's CE5 protocols. Decalcify your pineal gland. Detoxify your body and mind, and sincerely reach out on your own. This is completely a spiritual approach. So coming is the opportunity to join the Intergalactic Resettlement Program for those who prepare, raise our frequency, and care for the body temple, and tap into the love harmonic of the universe. Again, excuse me, human psychopathy will not be allowed to infect off-world systems. The awakening process is the beginning of training. Now, awakening is not the same thing as ascension. The ascension process is a high spiritual path and can be physically and emotionally uncomfortable, but it is the way to evolution and enlightenment. So for those of you who maybe missed part 1, I'm just going to repeat how I'm able to make contact. So several factors are included in and how I am, who I am, and what I am to be able to do the things that I do. So the factors include genetics from intergenerational contact, which as far as I know may have started before my grandmother, but for sure my grandmother had contact. I've also experienced death-like states and near-death experience. I've altered my lifestyle to allow me to hold the frequency, and I have a sincere desire to elevate myself and assist others to do the same. All of my life experiences made me who I am today. I knew through all of the suffering that I experienced in my life that I was being changed on a genetic and etheric level, and all this made me a very useful tool. Now I've been asked to share what I know with the world. I'm here to help those who are willing to make the changes necessary to participate in resettlement. We must initiate contact with a sincere desire and be willing to fix our lives and our intergenerational dysfunction and oppression, etc. As we prepare for contact, we are also cleaning up our own world. On a higher level of reality, universal issues are being dealt with here on Earth. Why cycle dysfunctional, immature souls through all of the planets when we can do this in the here and now on Earth and keep it contained? Further, there is a reason why universal consciousness is programmed in the love harmonic, because it works. Love isn't just a word or a meaning of itself. Love is an umbrella which includes kindness, mildness, joy, patience, self-control, faith, peace, goodness, etc. It creates harmonious community. It works. It is functional. And love has nothing to do with church or religion. If I do what is good only for me, it does not work out well. If I do what is good for others only, it does not work out well. But when I do what is good for myself and everyone else, this works. So we must get rid of dichotomous and separation thinking. We need to think freedom, creativity, and a life without limits. Now, next week, I'll talk more about the details for making contact. I'll also introduce you to the alien implant removal process and the quantum health transformation course materials. But this pretty much concludes part 3 of this 3-part series. Let me know if you have any questions about the Intergalactic Resettlement Program, and I'll do my best to answer them on the next show. You can email me at forbiddentransformation@gmail.com. Join me and bring your friends as we go live at 1 p.m. Mountain Time every Tuesday here on People for People Radio. And I want to give a special thank you to Gaz and Vanessa for hosting me on People for People Radio. And much love and light to you, the viewers. And thank you so much for sharing this time with me. Now, if you would like to enjoy more of my content, check out my website at www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com, where you will find an abundance of free resources to assist with energetic ascension into physical, mental, and spiritual paradise. When you visit my website, you're going to find the 9 steps to quantum health transformation. As I mentioned today in my presentation, this is a free, no strings attached, comprehensive online lifestyle course. It's over 20 videos and just packed with information that is going to help you improve your life. Then there's also the Quantum Guide Show. I am the host, and I conduct interviews with awakened masters. And I really encourage you to check out the show and let these people share their quantum work with you. I am also co-host for Forbidden Transformation with Karen and Chris show. And this show was specifically designed to help people to make positive ET contact, improve their lives, and find their experiencer community. And then on my YouTube channel, I have the Fringe View, which is science fiction becomes science fact as you learn about my real life, paranormal, and extraterrestrial experiences from my various podcasts. Under the free resources tab of my website, you will also find oodles of videos. I have some that are just audio only. I have some that are visual, audio visual. And then I also, of course, have my serial podcasts there as well. So my website is kind of like one stop for everything. And if you would like to support my work, check out my online shop where you will find Zendome's Orgonite, my unique brand of orgone generators. They're ethically sourced, handmade, and double charged for maximum effect. What that means is that I have a couple friends that make them for me. So they're never made in a factory. They're not made in a sweatshop, nothing like that. They're completely ethically sourced. They're absolutely handmade. And then I also double charge them for maximum effect. If you want to learn more about my orgone generators, there's tons of videos available also on my website. So then there's comfort crystals. I have a limited collection of energetically infused semi-precious stones. Those of you who are attracted to crystals already, I don't need to speak further. If you haven't tried them, I really recommend them. I also offer lifestyle services, workshops, assessments, and one-on-one support coaching, and PDF downloads, which are printable, shareable copies of my lessons. So my website again is www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com. That's KarenHolton healthcoach.com. My email again is forbiddentransformation@gmail.com. And of course, you can always find me here on People for People Radio, www.peopleforpeople.ning.com. And then there's my YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/C/Karen Holton TV. And the last thing I want to say is I am also creating a backup channel on Odyssey. It's ODYSEE.com. And I'm in the process of having my nearly 200 videos synced to Odyssey. So please do come and visit me. I'll let you know when that site's up and running. And that's it for today. So I just wish you all much light and much love, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.